So ngayon, pag-usapan naman natin itong reorganization na ginawa ni President Bongbong Marcos sa kanyang Communications Department. I'd like to welcome. Kukunin ko lang yung sheet ko, no? Kasi talagang hirap na hirap ako i-memorize itong acronym ng kanilang opisina dati. Hanggang ngayon, hirap na hirap ako. Okay, I'd like to welcome to our program si former Presidential Spokesman Secretary Edwin Lacierda. Kayo po yung dating head, tama ba, ng PCD-SPO. Tama ba?
Hindi. I was a spokesperson. Ang head ng ang PCD-SPO was si Ricky Carandang. And
Okay,
then,
tama.
he resigned. Ang nag-take over wala nang inappoint si Pinoy na cabinet secretary. Si Yusek Manolo na lang ang nag-manage ng PCD-SPO. But always we combine our offices whenever we come up with our press releases minsan, or we call ourselves OPS PCD-SPO.
Hirap pa rin ang acronym.
Hirap
ako talaga dyan.
Ang anong acronym na yan, actually, staff ni Executive Secretary Ochoa. Magaling yung actually kami rin, nahirapan din kaming bigkasin yung acronym.
Napakahirap. Parang siya yung NDRRMC na nung panahon ni Secretary Coloma, ginawa niyang NDRIMC na hindi naman nag-catch ng traction, di ba? Okay, I stand corrected. Hindi pala kayong head ng
Correct.
Presidential Communications Development and Strategic Planning Office. Tongue twister yan eh. And buti na lang nawala na siya. Yung
But we are coordinating. Pareho lang kami ng office, but we are in one office, Christian.
Yeah,
Ang OPS, ang
tama.
Presidential Spokesperson at yung office ng PCD-SPO. Isa lang. You've been there, di ba?
Opo. Sige, pag-usapan po natin to kasi this is you're very familiar with this organizational structure. Kasi dati po kayo naupo bilang presidential spokesman ni yumaong President Benigno Aquino the third, no? So, ito, ang latest na order ni President Bongbong Marcos ay yung PCOO, yung Presidential Communications Operations Office, ginawa ng Office of the Press Secretary, no? Actually, binalik lang sa dati. Noong unang panahon niya naman talaga. No? And yung Office of the Presidential Spokesperson, inabolish na. So, lahat under na ng OPS, no? Office of the Press Secretary. What do you think of that?
Well, depende kasi kung ano yung nila eh. Simply, meron kaming strategic purpose why we divided the Office of Press Secretary to two parts. So 3 parts actually, OPS, PCD-SPO, and then yung PCOO. But fundamentally, OPS and PCD-SPO provided the content, kumbaga. Sila ang content creator. Si PCOO handled the dissemination infrastructure ng communications infrastructure, PTV4, 'di ba yung radio ng government nasa kanila rin. Yung production, yung printing office, nasa kanila lahat yun, no? Naki Secretary Coloma yon. Kami naman, we work hand in hand with the President sa amin yung speech writing, yung content, yung official gazette na naging institutionalized kasi a lot of walang institutional memory. There's no department in government that handles the institutional memory of the Philippine government. So we embarked, at least si Manolo embarked on this project of putting into record the institutional memory. That's why we also came up with a government style guide, how you describe the government, for instance, how you talk about Malacanang Palace, you don't put the article the Malacanang Palace, it's Malacanang Palace. Very specific yung may style guide and may branding din. So we made it really like a professional communications run office where everything from form and substance were handled. No? So yan yung naging division of labor ng the content side from the dissemination side. And that's the reason why we did it. Now, when it came to President Marcos Jr., maybe I suppose he just went back to the original state. The only difference, by the way, also is the RTVM was moved to presidential management staff, which I don't know why it was done that way. No? But fundamentally, binalik naman kinolaps ni Secretary Andanar o ni President Duterte yung OPS PCD-SPO to PCOO, and then si President Marcos collapsed the Presidential Spokesperson Office to become the Office of the Press Secretary. So ganun lang ginawa niya. It's back to pre-martial law. Then, so the press secretary functions as the spokesperson. I can tell you that it's very difficult to do that because the complexities of modern media went beyond already the traditional media. In and of itself, radio, print at saka yung TV are already difficult medium to handle to begin with, no. Then you
Mm.
bring about the social media pa, so talagang mas marami yan, and mahirap ang isang spokesperson to be acting as a OPS. And I think I'll tell you this, when Secretary Martin Andanar came to visit me, because palabas na kami, papasok sila, I told Secretary Martin Andanar, Martin, wag kang maging spokesperson. Mahirap yung trabaho niyan. But the first few days, I think first few weeks, siya ang naging spokesperson. It's really difficult to be the press secretary and the OPS. No? I also experienced that kasi at that point when we came in, Ricky Carandang wasn't there yet. Secretary Coloma wasn't there yet. So it was all the one handling the communications team I was the one heading it. So it was really very, very difficult na trabaho yan. So I don't know if it's going to be easier for the new press secretary, wala pa rin siyang mga USEC, wala siyang spokesperson na deputy. And if they're going to do it, Christian, not every day ang press briefing, baka pwede pa. But, there's a beast to feed. So you have to really feed
Yeah.
the Malacanang press corps with daily, and the news cycle is no longer, dati hanggang 4 o'clock, you run to print, di ba? Ngayon, wala nang 24/7 ang news cycle, Christian, you know that.
Ito, basahin ko muna, may fans kayo dito, no? Kami sina Secretary Sir Edwin Lacierda and Abigail Valte. Baka naman staff nyo to, ha? Okay, joke lang yan.
Thank you.
Hindi, yung Office of the Press Secretary, yun nga gusto kong pag-usapan din dito, no? Kasi siya old school, di ba? We need to update that kasi although the press remains, 'di ba? Pero ang dami ng mga platforms and avenues for communication. So medyo doon ako napaisip, bakit binalik sa dati? Ano ba 'yun? Nostalgic feeling lang ba 'yun or there's something more strategic involved in that? May nakikita ba kayong ganon?
Well, number one, definitely whenever you collapse everything, that means you're in a way saying we want to promote efficiency. We want to take out red tape. I mean, that's a very simplistic way of saying when you collapse everything. But the question comes in is the volume of work, does it also enhance productivity? Kasi like I said, ang dami ng mga platforms ngayon, does collapsing everything into the press secretary improve efficiency, improve the dissemination of information? Maybe that's a question to ask. And certainly, I would understand that every president wants to make a mark in the department, in the departments that he's the president. So he wants to make notable changes under his administration. That's one possible way. And the other thing that you mentioned, Christian, is maybe he wants to rebrand it back to the pre-martial law days. That's one also possibility. But we have yet to see kung magiging mas efficient sila kapag kinolapse mo under the Office of the Press Secretary. Marami diyan actually ang hinahabol ng media, Christian, and you know this, is yung substantive side ng communications Di ba? Let's be honest with it. Kailan ba naging number 1 ang PTV4? Diba? It's never been number 1. You go to other mediums. Ikaw, you're a new medium. People are flocking to your show to watch. Diba? So it's evolving. Our programs at different content providers or content creators are evolving, are coming up. So how relevant will be creating a monolithic Office of the Press Secretary?
So yun ang isang problema dyan. Baka maging monolithic, no? Yun nga, what difference can it make from the perspective of the president? Kasi mensahe niya tsaka polisiye niya, supposedly, yun talagang ilalahad, di ba?
Correct. Ang challenge nga doon, kaya nga, kung di ba mas maganda? Kasi alam natin, ang emphasis talaga ng tao is information. So therefore, you create a group that focuses on information. That's why para in sync lahat yan, di ba? Like yung mga messaging ng speechwriters, dapat alam mo kaagad o hindi pa tapos yung speech pero you can tell your speechwriters ano nangyayari. So may focus sa substance. Yung dissemination side, let someone else handle it kasi may mga problema yan. Like there's a labor union, there's a union sa PTV4 and it's been a frequent problem. Perennial problem yan ng PTV4, di ba? There are many problems whereas you can focus on the most important thing is providing and disseminate and giving good information, timely information to the public. And also more importantly to the Malacanang press corps.
Oh,
Unless of course you want to consider your own propaganda vis-a-vis the Malacanang press corps. That's another is there a strategy towards that, making sure that you come up with your own propaganda. Because in the martial law years, when I was growing up, I only heard government propaganda. I never heard the opposition until Malaya came in. Yung mga ganung klaseng experience.
Sige. May naisip ako pero pipigilan ko yung sarili ko. Okay. Pipigilan ko yung sarili ko. In the meantime, kayo ba, ano ba yung mga natutunan nyo pagbaba nyo sa pwesto? Kasi I remember, you also had your own struggles, no? Ito, siguro pwede ko i-share, no? Hindi naman tayo nakakapag-usap ng ganito freely when I was covering Malacanang nung panahon ni President Noynoy Aquino. Kaya ako natatawa pag sinasabi ng iba, dilawan ako, di ba? Alam ko maraming times nagalit kayo sa akin, di ba? Because of the way I ask questions. Hindi nyo na sinasabi openly.
For the record, from our end, you were not friendly. You to a certain degree, to a large degree, you were not friendly in a way that I can get you give me an easy pass. Hindi ganoon eh. May mga
even antagonistic, 'di ba?
To a large degree, yes, you confront us with difficult questions. Kaya nga ako rin natatawa ako pag si Christian Dilawan, kailan naging Dilawan yan? Binabanatan kami yan. Maraming mga journalists yan na they're being identified as Dilawan na they're not friendly, they're just doing their job. Ang tingin namin, you were just doing your job. And in fact, may mga comment pa nga si Pinoy, ba't ganyan si Christian sumulat? Di ba yung mga may question on, di ba? We would question, but we tell you, we would ask you, and usapan friendly. We give you our views to you, and you take it, and then you will defend yourself or you'll explain your side, but we don't impose ourselves on you, Christian.
Totoo naman yan kasi dapat naman ganun eh.
Communication, yun lang.
Oo, pero yun talagang yun, 'di ba? Yung mga days, mga bakbakan talaga yan, 'di ba? Yung parang may discord naturally. Pero ang gusto ko itanong sa inyo kasi, ano yung mga na-realize nyo while you were in that position na sa tingin nyo makakatulong siguro dun sa mga susunod sa inyo or sumunod sa inyo ngayon? Kasi dito, minsan madali, 'di ba? Kunwari bago ka sa gobyerno, gusto kong hawakan yung microphone. I want to speak for the president. Baka ma-shock sila, hindi siya ganun kadali sa totoo lang. Diba? Ano yung mga tips na siguro pwede ibigay?
Based on our interactions with the Malacanang Press Corps, for instance, the basic thing that you have is the most important thing for a press secretary is that you should have a access to the president. Kasi you're speaking for the president and you should know the mind of the president. That's why we had very clear access to Pinoy eh. Yung let's say may mga tanong kayo. And also number 2 is do not give your own opinion pagdating sa matters of state. Kasi ang hirap niyan, may tawag kami doon na si Pinoy sinabihan kami, huwag kayong magwiwido. Kung hindi nyo alam, sabihin nyo hindi nyo alam, we'll get back to you. And then come text me or talk to me if there are important questions that you don't know what I am thinking. So talagang yung pinaka-importante, yung widow, ang importante, may access ka sa Pangulo. Pangalawa, huwag kang magwiwido. Pangatlo, tama ka, Richard, huwag kang magyayabang talaga doon, huwag kang mambobola. Kasi alam mo, ang media talagang mabubutasan ka eh. Some of the people, the style of the questions, minsan mabait ang dating, tapos bigla pahirap ng pahirap. So, and you should have a mindset that you're not just talking to as a spokesperson. Your audience is not the reporters. Your audience is the Filipino people. So, talagang dapat may mindset ka that through the press that you're conveying the mind of the president to the Filipino public. And that's the reason why you cannot be speaking out of turn. And don't to a certain degree, you have to remain kalmado. When I started, talagang, it was may iba yung ano ko, iba yung role ko noon kasi abogado ako,
Oo,
law
suplado
professor
kayo
ako.
nun eh.
Kaya nga talagang may ano yun, talagang you need to change talaga your mindset.
At saka ito
Mm.
sasabihin ko ba to? Hindi, I had the sense na, especially early on, yung grupo nyo very snooty. Na pero, na medyo highbrow, na para bang, napapansin ko yun during press conferences, diba? Minsan talaga naman may mga stupid questions na lumulusot, diba? Yung pagtaas ng kilay, pag-irap, napapansin ko yung mga ganun eh. Parang sabi ko, medyo suplado yata itong mga to, no? Parang siguro nabababuhan sa tanong or nabababuhan lang dun sa lahat ng nangyayari. Pero
Hindi,
naayos naman later on. Mas may adjustment naman. Am I wrong
no.
or what?
It's I think one of part of the reason why siguro nagre-react din kami because maybe it's been in law there's a term asked and answered eh. Yung the press corps keeps on asking the same question over and over again sometimes in different form in different manner eh. So sometimes you say, ano ba to? Natanong na to, sinagot ko na. Ano ba namang klaseng ano parang and yes
Ah,
I'll tell you also from our end. Of course, there are sometimes there are questions. What kind of a question is that? I mean, it's you're not supposed to convey your emotion, but sometimes it's just to hindi mo rin maalis sa amin na parang, ano ba
alam
to?
ko
Ano
yan.
ba to? Di ba? Anong
Mm.
klaseng tanong to? And sometimes you just
Oo.
really have to be patient through it all. And kung if we express if we're very transparent, well, partly because nga from our background din ano. So
Oo.
talagang but we learned our lesson then and we became close to each other. So but the other thing that they don't know, Christian, before the start of the briefing, nagbibiruan tayo parati, di ba? Naglolokohan pero pagdating sa the one thing that I like with the
Kas-
Malacanang press corps, nagbibiruan tayo pag nag-on na yung camera, wala na, seryoso na, professional na.
kasama ba ako doon? Alam ko, suplado ako eh.
Pero kasama ka rin sa kwentuhan namin.
Di yata ako kasama doon eh. Hindi, tsaka ito. Yung sinasabi nyo kasing ganyan yung ano eh. Totoo yan eh. Ako sa classroom nare-realize ko yan eh. Yung minsan, kakasabi mo ng instructions, biglang tatanungin, Sir, ito ba yung gagawin? Di ba kakasabi ko lang? Di ba? Miski sa program, ganun, di ba? Ito, dito sa, very interactive to eh. Kakasabi mo lang, tatanungin, ano ba yung ano? Eh, nakikinig naman supposedly, di ba? At saka minsan, na-realize ka, don't know whether this could also apply to you, no? Yung parang, pag masyadong logical yung thinking mo sa isang tanong, minsan ikaw pa yung magmumukha illogical. 'Di ba? Yung 'di ba? Usually pag tinanong, sasagutin mo siya, 'di ba? Based on what the question really is. Pero minsan over premise, illogical mismo. Tapos pag ginamitan mo siya ng logical lens, ikaw pa yung mapapahiya eh. Parang ganoon, 'di ba?
At saka meron din Christian, tama yan, but also the other thing may you want to also catch us at the wrong ano eh, may parang mapapahiya kami, parang magkakamali kami and it happens, di ba? May
Mm,
magiging soundbite yun yung
yung mga traps.
mga traps. May isang reporter diyan sa malaking press ko, biruan ko, ikaw talaga nang-uurot ka lang talaga. Talagang yung nang-aasar
Ah,
lang ba? May okay lang sa akin pero nasanay na ako. May mga ilang reporter na nang-aasar. So talagang after the briefing, lalapit, ikaw talaga nang-uurot ka lang talaga. Pero okay lang yun yung kwentuhan ng biruan na lang yan. So it became staple for us to joke after, nagkwentuhan. Ay nako, eto na naman, uurutin na naman ako. Uurutin
eto
mo na
pala.
naman ako. Ay, parang mga ganun. But it had a very good relationship with us. In the end, my understanding is after we left the next president, the next administration, I got text by the way from the former reporters. They would text me, sir, namimiss na namin kayo. Yung ganun ba? Kasi the free flow of information, we're very transparent. You can ask questions without being afraid. The atmosphere changed also with the coming of the new administration. But sa akin, I commiserate with you, but sa akin naman, I'm glad I'm out of that because, I was told early on na ang shelf life ng press secretary o spokesperson dapat 1 or 2 years na mag-resign ka na, mapapagod ka.
Oo.
And 6 years kami and we offered to resign midterm. We offered to resign. But hindi tinanggap ni Pinoy yung resignation namin. Sabi niya, akala ko ba walang iwanan? Yan ang parati niya sinasabi. Kaya
Ah.
most of the cabinet secretaries under Pinoy, walang umaalis eh.
Oh, I remember no panahon ni Gloria, although 9 years naman sa Gloria, no, there was a stretch na nakailang palit ng spokespersons. Tapos minsan meron pa yata more than 3, no? Pati si Charito Planas nakasama sa mga
Correct,
deputies, no?
correct.
Oo. And then
Ang
even
shelf
this
life talaga, kapagod
mabilis na
talaga.
Yung turnaround mabilis, supposedly.
Oo, pero it's really very exhausting kasi talagang morning pa lang, radyo in the morning, pag di ka sumipot. Si Ted Filon, minsan pag di ako nakasipot, binabanatan ako ere, okay lang yun. Kasi talagang, minsan meron ako nasa ibang station ako or may busy ako may ginagawa. Or sometimes I really just say, kaya muna, pagod na muna ako, I just won't take on. Di ba yung parang, ang hirap talaga ng buhay, tas hanggang gabi, may breaking sa gabi, asking for your comment. Pati si Pinoy, na-istor mo, sir, may ganitong breaking, what's your view? Di ba? Talagang it's
Eh,
24/7.
ganun eh.
24/7.
Ginusto niya yan eh. Nasa gobyerno kayo. Sorry ah. Ginusto niya yan.
Totoo naman yan. But
Hindi mo kayo pinilit eh.
pero the work is, ano talaga, it's a reward unto itself naman. Because knowing that
Oo.
we tried our best naman, may psychic reward naman talaga yung trabaho.
Ito, may isa akong tanong ah. I hope you don't mind. Anong ginagawa niyo dati rin sa mga reporters na alam niyo nanghihingi ng pera sa inyo? Ano mga perks?
I'll tell you this, because nga hiwalay ang, wala sa amin yun. We don't.
You didn't have to deal with them.
I never dealt with them. Our team, OPSP, CDSPO, never dealt with them. We have Amaro. I don't know what Amaro did. No? Alam mo naman kung sino yung head ng nag-handle ng mga media. So, I don't know what he did for that. But ako, swerte naman sa amin dahil yung trabaho namin was on the content side. We never dealt on that side.
Hindi kayo nabiktima ng mga ACDC? Yung sa mga hindi nakakaalam, ACDC, ano siya? Hindi siya yung banda, no? Attack, collect, defend, and collect. Kunwari, komentarista, babanatan ang isang opisyal, di ba? Tapos, bigla siya magkakaroon ng kotse. Di ba? O kaya gusto niya may ganun, di ba?
Christian, I have experience and may experience ko, may mga taong, yung mga komentarista na will call me, babanatan ka, tapos afterwards, kakausapin ka, Sek, tulungan kita, blah, blah, tapos, and then may sasabihin sa akin, tatawag sa akin, Sek, may project yung ko, baka pwedeng tulungan ako. DA. So, DA yung wala sa akin, pero gustong hanapin ko si Prosi Alcala.
Reporter yan?
Ha?
Reporter?
Hindi reporter. Komentarista, dati.
Ah.
So, mga ganun. So, may mga ganung klaseng mga trabaho na lumalabas, but I don't deal with them kasi sabi ko, kung talagang may project naman, I will refer like in the case of that particular commentator, meron daw siyang project sa agriculture. So I refer them to Secretary Alcala. Maraming humingi ng tulong sa PCSO ng tulong. And I will accommodate that kasi I will do, let's say kunyari medical assistance, hingi lang naman kami ng medical abstract eh. Then I will write a letter to PCSO and sila na bahala and we will just facilitate and help them kung may mga medical concerns. Some of the reporters may mga kamag-anak, kaibigan. So sige, okay lang, give it to us. We will prepare the letter. I'll write a letter to PCSO.
Okay lang yun dun sa mga nangangailangan ng medical assistance kasi mga taxpayers yan eh. Pero medyo nagulat ako rin sa komentarista, no? Kung ako yun, siguro dapat sinabi ko, kapal naman ang mukha mo. Unang-una, ba't ka nagninegosyo sa DA, di ba?
Diba, dapat I don't know what happened to that. Ako na lang, basta binato ko na lang sa DA yun. So sabi ko, wala na. And then after that, hindi naman ako ini-istorbo. Very, alam naman nila na the thing there, because I have direct access to the president, people would approach you and try to talk to you. Yan yung the perception of accessibility to the president is in and of itself power. So kaya talagang people will approach you, will try to be nice to you and all that. Ako naman, wala naman akong at some point talagang wala namang mangyayari diyan, wala kang mahihita diyan. So they stop.
Totoo yan, oo. Totoo yan, oo. Nalalaman din naman ng mga reporters kung sino yung mga dissenting public officials. Yung tipong pag-corrupt ka, alam mong wala ka mapupura dyan eh. So tumigil ka na lang, di ba? The same way na alam nyo kung sino sa hanay namin yung mga magnanakaw, tsaka kawatan, tsaka mga tulisan, di ba? Oo. Ito, may tanong. Gusto ko tong format na to, mas nagiging prangka ako eh.
No holding back talaga, no? Ang hashtag.
Yung kakapal ng mukha ng ibang mga reporters din talaga, no? Kung makapagsigaw ng press freedom, pero mga corrupt eh. Tawag mga corrupt to the bones eh. Parang Max Fried Chicken eh. Ito, may tanong sa inyo, Secretary. Did it ever happen that you ignored a question from the press?
If it's a press briefing, no, I cannot ignore because it's us. Sometimes, however, if it is sent to me by way of text, more often than not, because ang daming pumapasok na text, ang ang meeting kasi namin 2, 3, 4 times a day with the president. So sometimes I accidentally, without any intention, not will not be able to answer questions from the press. But
So,
definitely, pag nasa press briefing yan, will have to answer every and all question.
walang yung parang nangyari kay Secretary Vic Rodriguez yung sa Rappler, yun parang walang nadinig. Walang ganon.
No, we never did that. We never did that. We would have to answer. We would tell them straight. Wala, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of that. Let me get back to you. Ganun ang
Ayan.
reply. Or if it's a confidential matter, sorry, it's a national security issue. We cannot respond to that.
Ito,
Naman na talaga.
ito may tanong from George De La Rama. Mr. Lacierda, do you think the reorganization is merely to streamline the functions of the agencies or a strategy to ultimately control information?
Whenever you reorganize, it's really, and it's based on the premise on the revised administrative code. When you reorganize, the premise, the obvious premise is you want to streamline. Now, whether it's going to be a propaganda tool, that depends. I would, it would be still too early for us. But I'm thinking kasi, sa totoo lang, Christian, the fact that, however the fear of a press suppression, we're still experiencing press freedom. So far, I've not seen any attempt to repress press freedom. Maybe just crowd you out by in terms of noise or volume ng ingay.
Are you talking of the present?
I'm talking about the present, no? I mean,
Okay.
yung ngayon, I mean, the fact that you're there, the fact that you're
Hindi,
live.
ito to be fair, no? Ito, in all honesty, hindi to sarcasm whatsoever. Maganda na humarap si President Bongbong Marcos sa media. Say what you will, kayo po mga critics dyan. Pero magandang humaharap siya. And he answers questions, di ba? You may not be happy with the answers, pero the point is, humaharap siya, di ba? So at least he made good on that promise na sabi niya, di ba meron siya binigay during the campaign, baka hindi ko na kailangan spokesperson, ako na mismo. Although ngayon, talagang kailangan niya. So to be fair to him, tapos, yun nga lang, alam natin marami pa rin problema in terms of access, di ba? Pero at least, yung presidente mismo humaharap. Ayan positive yan, baka magalit na naman kayo. Ito may tanong, eto. Pwede ko sagutin yung tanong na to after nyo. May mga question po, may mga list of approved questions lang ba na tinatanggap nung time ni Pinoy?
Hindi siya approved questions. In my experience, we worked out a system with, at the time si Mia Gonzalez, no? She was with business, ano ba siya? Kay
Business World.
Ambassador Kapamon. Hindi,
Business Mirror.
Business Mirror.
Si Mia Gonzalez po, siya yung napakagandang journalist at desk person po. Desk woman ngayon sa Rappler. Idol po natin.
President siya ng MPC, no? Na para mas maraming tanong give us your questions in advance. So, I get questions in advance. We'll try to respond to that. Ang unang tinatanong yung mga advanced questions that were sent to me in advance. But may mga tanong na walang extemporaneous talaga. Right there and there tinatanong ka. So, but yung habit na yan, hindi naman nasusunod parati yan eh. So sometimes there will be days na I'm not getting any advanced questions. So talagang you answer right there and there yung mga tanong. But ito maybe something that we can help also the present OPS is you need to at the start of the day dapat meron ka ng monitoring ng landscape mo sa news, di ba? You would know
alam mo yung nangyayari.
Alam mo nangyayari, and therefore and the media naman will not be so dense as they will ask questions out of the blue. They will ask questions that are relevant, that's happening on a daily, on a day before, or that happen on the same day. So you have to be prepared to respond to those inevitabilities. The other things that I did was one thing na galit, hindi naman galit. Minsan nagtataka si Pinoy. Kayo rin, di ba kayo MPC? Ayaw nyo na, bakit yung ibang mga cabinet secretaries pupunta rito sa podium ng Malacanang, meron naman silang sariling beat eh. Tapos si Presidente naman, si Pinoy, why are you answering questions outside of the palace? Sabi ko, sir, I'm representing you. These people, the Malacanang press would like to ask questions, for instance, in issues of DSWD, DND. So ang ginagawa ko, early in the morning, I go through the monitoring whether it's me or si Yusek Valte, tatawagan namin isa-isa yung mga potential na tanong in their department. Like at that time, kung mainit ang CCT, di ba, tatawagan ko si Dinky. Sabi ko, Dinky, ay sinasabi ng kaliwa na ano daw to, dole out daw to, anong natin, di ba? My answers are all substantive because I really make it a point to talk to the other cabinet secretaries. So yun din ang isang ginagawa. So ano yung sagot mo sa tanong ko? Sa tanong na yun.
Sa tanong na yan. Pero ako personally, happy ako dati nung kung may dinadala kayong mga ibang cabinet secretaries kasi mas nagiging mas substantive pa yung discussion. Kasi mas alam nila yung lay of the land doon sa kanilang mga departamento, 'di ba? Sila yung alter ego. Pero sagot ko rin sa tanong din sa inyo, 'di ba? Meron ba approved questions? Ako sa experience ko covering the Aquino administration, I think ano yan cumulative 3 years, no? Almost 4 years yata. Wala man ako na-experience na kailangan ito'y itanong mo. Kasi ang style ko ron, ako personally, as a journalist, I hate yung nagbibigay ako ng advanced questions. Pero sa mga ambush interviews, hinihingan kami nan di ba? Nakakoral. Sabi, ano yung mga tatanong nyo? So, nag-uusap-usap kami para wala ng duplication. To, South China Sea. Ako na rin magka-follow up nito. Huwag ka nang e-epal, di ba? Ito, tatanong natin, kunwari, conditional cash transfer. Pero ako, binibigay ko lang. Ito yung, trick of the trade ko sa akin lang to. Nilalagay ko lang topic. South China Sea.
Correct.
Kasi, miski sa program, di ba, nung nasa ANC ako before, may mga guests na nanghihingi ng advanced questions. I didn't give them. Marami, oo. Unless talagang data yung hihingin. Kunwari, sa inyo, di ba, kunwari, I need hard data about the 4 Ps. Syempre, hindi naman pwedeng bulagain yung nakaharap sa mikropono, diba? So, kailangan, para mas substantive, sabihin mo, hihingi ka ng ganun data. Pero how you ask the question, hindi dapat binibigay in advance Kasi nagmumukhang scripted.
Yung naman, tama ka rin doon, Christian, that topic in and of itself, once you are given the topic, you should know what are the potential questions that can be asked. Diba? And it's a job of me and my staff, my colleagues in government to know the relevant answers to relevant questions that can be potentially asked by the reporter. So it's a no-brainer for us that even if you mention lang the topic, okay, so these are the potential questions that are going to be asked by Christian. And I don't recall nga that you have, but minsan nagte-text sa akin yung mga tanong kasi diba, wala na tayo sa press briefing. Siyempre, may mga tanong ka pa outside of the press briefing. You text me, yung mga ganong klase mga mga situation.
Kaya honestly, yung position ng press secretary, yung spokesperson, napakahirap no? Hindi pwedeng bobo, no? Hindi pwedeng tatanga-tanga. Kasi kailangan meron kang malawak na understanding doon sa sa lahat ng sangay ng pamahalaan, iba't ibang departamento. At again, dapat laging kasama yung pangulo. You cannot say, 'di ba?
Christian, you're correct there because I will always maintain that next to the president, I hold the biggest mic. Because I'm in the palace, people ask me questions, and I represent the president. So if you cannot have the president, the next best person to ask would be the spokesperson. And that's why the spokesperson is also the venue, the bridge between me and the other CAPS, especially if there are non-palace questions are being asked. DSWD, DND, DOTC, pati lahat yun dapat alam ko rin Yan ang naging burden ng isang spokesperson. Hindi lang yung mindset ng Pangulo ang tatanungin mo, ang malalaman mo, dapat pati yung mga ibang sangay ng gobyerno. The one thing I don't answer really pagdating sa judiciary or sa legislative branch, hindi ko sasagutin yan. Pero pagdating sa executive branch, I'm duty bound to at the very least give you an answer.
Tsaka dapat, di ba, pag during cabinet meetings, dahil nandun naman kayo, dapat nagno-notes talaga, nakikinig, di ba? Hindi pwedeng lutang, hindi pwedeng nagzo-zone out, di ba?
Correct. Kasi in our meetings, kasi like si President Bongbong Marcos, he mentioned he intends to do 2 cabinet meetings a week. I find that, I was saying nga, na hindi kailangan na buong cabinet nagmi-meeting kasi
Clusters
may mga
pwede.
Clusters or even lesser than clusters kasi may mga 10 o'clock meeting natin. It's not even the whole cluster. It's really very specific issues that needed to be addressed, or sometimes the cabinet secretary would request a meeting for a president for a decision making. So lahat yan, no matter how small the issue is, yung may CSW na sinasabi, complete staff work, nakahanda naman. We do take notes. We put the comments of the president. Kaya talagang, I would say that me and my deputy, si Abby, have never been remiss. At least kung alam namin, alam namin yung facts, we will answer you frankly and straightforward. Wala kaming, as much as possible, we don't do motherhood statements talaga. Kasi hindi naman beneficial to the president yung magbibigay kami ng motherhood statement.
Eto finally, Attorney Lacierda, gusto kong hingin yung pananaw nyo dito, no? Yung accreditation ng vloggers to be part of the Malacanang press corps. Where do you stand on this?
It was an issue during our time. Again, it was Mia Gonzalez. I was in favor of that because I was also a blogger before. I was in favor of that, but Mia sat me down and told me, sir, the fundamental problem with bloggers is accountability. They are not we are accountable to our editors, to our bosses. Itong mga to, they're not accountable. Number two, and I realize this, is what are they going to report on? Opinion naman sila eh. If it's opinion, it's based on something factual. If they're not going to do a factual reporting, and bloggers are not doing factual reporting, they're giving out or dishing out their own opinions in their own respective blogs. So I felt na okay, I acceded to Mia, and we decided not to accept the bloggers. And I think the situation right now is, I think because in the campaign, ang daing bloggers eh. I mean the dissemination of information of the Marcos campaign was not being done through the traditional media, although you were following them, but it was mainly moved by the bloggers themselves. They were the ones disseminating. They were also the influencers. They were disseminating whatever was being shown in the campaign or the statements of Bongbong Marcos then. So talagang for them, it's an indispensable tool of disseminating information. And so do they want to follow that? And ang thinking ko rin, it's not gonna be the same thing as a campaign. I have a favorite saying, I always use this. You campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. You campaign in poetry, ibig sabihin poetry, madali lang yan eh. Mas madali, mas masarap, no? Kasi may laban. Pero in governance, you have 101 issues before you. My analogy of the problems in government is the public only sees 10% of the problem. It's like an iceberg. We only see the tip of the iceberg. 90% of the problems are solved without even the public knowing it. And that's why it's such a hard job being in government. And whereas the office of the press secretary is in the middle of it, dealing with, coordinating with the media people, and hopefully to disseminate information.
Okay. Former Secretary Edwin Lacierda, maraming salamat po. Maganda yung metaphor nyo, no? Magandang segue yan dito sa ating third and last topic. Maraming salamat po, sir.
Christian, thank you.
Okay.